Okay. Hey, everybody. So, you guys did some coding, and so now I invite you to join the Google Hangout that I posted in the in Slack. And my bad. Okay, I think it's better now. Karis, try unmuting. Yeah. Okay, better? Nope. What? Oh, I need to turn off my speakers. That's what I need to do. And I will mute myself, and I'll turn this down. Okay, and now try it again. Better? Okay. Well, let's speak loudly because we don't want the feedback and stuff. Okay, cool. And so then, yeah, so I encourage you to share what you've done to talk about it to the class. So you want to share your screen? Which I used to know how to do. Where is it? I gotta share screen. Sharing screen required plugins and stuff. Oh, there you go. Awesome. Oh, and let's see here. Well, actually, yeah, yes, but what you want to do is there is a presentation mode that I think might do good. So view, enter presentation mode. So give that a try. Oh, there you go. So much better. Okay. Oh, actually, and unmute yourself, Karis. Can you unmute? Because that way you'll. Oh yeah, go figure. Okay, sorry. Let's see, you're still muted. Yeah, that way it's the recording.
And then do this again. Do this. Okay, cool. We'll go big again. Okay.
Oh, I muted myself.
Okay. Okay. Well, I feel like we did like a quick and dirty way to deal with all the exceptions. I just threw exceptions within my own try block and caught them at the end. But it's pretty easy. So we just make sure we have the right number of arguments, parse the integer from the first argument. If that doesn't work, we catch the number format exception down here and give some sort of relevant message. And then if we get a valid integer, we just print if it's a leap year or not. And here's the is leap year function. Just a 3-liner.
Do you have any tests?
Yes.
Let's
see if I can. Do you know how to navigate through files on this?
Command N.
Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, okay, got it. This would be leap. There we go. Okay. So a few edge cases. So 300 not divisible by 400, but divisible by 100 is not a leap year. 40, I just wanted to catch something that was divisible by 4, but not divisible by 100. Let's see, is not a leap year. 2600. This one was divisible by 100, but not 400. And then, yeah, these two were just odd number years. And then we just looked up several of the next leap years and just dumped all those in.
Nice.
And then we did a few integration tests. Let's just to make sure that we get all the stuff out of the command line we expect to get. So we did one for the command line arguments for too many and too few, if an invalid year is given, and then make sure that it gives the right messages on valid and invalid, or leap years and not leap years.
Wow, excellent. Good deal. Any questions or commentary for Karas and partner? No? Very nice. Coffee time. Hey, let's follow up that one. Yeah, that was very good. Who else is on? Aiden, Gabriel, or Brian? Heavy sigh?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have a lot.
Unmute yourself.
Like, you want me to speak through my microphone?
Yeah, unmute yourself, and that way it'll show up in the recording. Nope, it's not letting you unmute.
No, it's not letting me because I told it not to. I just avoided the whole process.
Okay, no problem then.
Nominating using the microphone. If you can, is a way to let it use the microphone.
Okay, we'll share your screen. There you go.
Okay. So really all we did was.
Can you go into presentation mode? It'll be easier for everybody else to see. So view menu and then presentation mode, it's like third from the bottom.
Where's the view? Oh, I see.
Yeah, sorry. Menus and shared. There you go. Okay.
Okay.
So much better.
So yeah, so lead year. And then we got our year field, and then we just kind of have a good message and bad message loaded up. And then it takes an int for the constructor, and then it just has like one method that returns either good message or bad message. So lead year check. And we literally just did it for each acceptance criteria, so we could do nice testing for just acceptance criteria by criteria.
Yep.
How do I go to
Command N to change classes.
Command N?
Command N. N as in nuvile. I don't know.
Give me this.
I don't know.
Oh, I can't see it. What the heck? Let's put it out. Sorry. I'm just starting I don't know.
Can you, I don't know, can you do like over leap year, say Alt F7 to look for usages? Oh, weird. It looks clean to me. But... Thinking about it. Nice.
Sorry guys. Yeah. Good presentation.
So while Ian's working on
Well,
that,
got my intelligence in there. I don't know what happened.
messed up. Okay. What are some compare and contrast Aiden's solution with Karas' solution? Pair programming, 4 hands, all on the keyboard at the same time. It's pretty awesome. It's like copy and paste. Oh, nice. This is good now.
Doing something today.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Make me look bad. Okay.
Is that still me?
It is. It is.
Yeah, so. Okay.
So their leap year check method is a lot like the is leap year. I think that's what you called yours, right? And that's the thing where the logic lives. And let's see here. And the is leap year return to booleans returns a string. Contrast those two solutions. Does one appeal to you more? Does one appeal to you less? What's the difference between those two? Yeah.
We did what Aiden did in the fact that we put it in like our. Wait, you put it in the name, right?
No.
Oh, never mind. Sorry. Wait. No, never mind. I thought Aiden put his in the name. Or we did that too. We didn't make a separate function. My partner. Yeah, over this.
Oh.
He wanted to do a separate.
Trouble at home.
Yeah, he wanted to put it in a separate function, and I said, no, it's just like a if-else statement. Let's just do it in name.
Oh, a third way to do it. Okay.
So the reason we do it the way we did it is because when we had these next tests.
Yeah.
So we just
You can say,
we just put our acceptance criteria kind of comments, and then we just did people were good if that's the acceptance criteria 1, and bad message if that's 2.
the next factory is going to be adding getters, so we wouldn't have to actually spell that message in the rest of them.
Okay. Cool. Oh, you can. I wonder if you can use option command left and right, left arrow, right arrow. If that works in presentation, but I can never remember.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Alright. But yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Cool. No, not at all. So it's interesting having it return a string is certainly what the program needs to do, but I think there's something to be said for the Boolean result because then it lets the caller decide what to do with that. So not necessarily right or wrong, but it's hey, now if you want to like localize into Japanese or whatever, it'd be a little more difficult to do that. But I don't know. What calendar are they on? So anyway, cool, excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Let's see here. Anybody else want to share? You guys were talking about yours. Do you want to?
Yeah, we'll do it.
Okay. Can you unmute?
I can do so.
Oh, right. Yes. It's like your system has been muted.
Cool.
I still kind of like little red shoes. Like that.
It does, yeah.
It does. Those were the best.
Yeah, I never use it.
Oh, really? Oh, that is what happened.
Which one is it? They're so tiny.
Sure, IBM hasn't actually given Lenovo or whatever.
Is it this?
The financing function drives me nuts. Oh, I don't know. It's like, we came back to it today, like 20 years later, when we got what's weird. Yeah.
Oh, I know. This is the wrong. Let's do this. Is the mic working? Test.
Yes, it is.
Oh. Now just get it. Share I'll leave here. I'll shrink them a little bit. You want to talk about it? We spent most of our time getting our main to work, and so once we finally got that working, we felt behind. So we just made 4 tests to cover the different, like we did 2000 to check for if it's mod 400 equals 0. And then we just did 1700. Oh yeah, 1700, because that was like the second little bullet point on the thing. If it's mod 100 and mod 400 equals 1. And then another test for 2008 for mod 4 equals 0 and mod 100 equals 1. And then we did our last test just for 2017. So we didn't get as much, we didn't really validate the arguments in terms of like if it was actually a year. Or I'm sorry, if it was So like we only got to the point where we're just assuming they're putting in an actual number as the main argument. And then Gabe,
that would probably be like the next step. But for now, we just wanted to make sure the logic of how it tests whether it's a leap year works first. And, validating the input.
And my partner wanted to make a separate function like all the other groups, but I strong armed him, and so I got it all in main. And but one they looks kind of like the other groups, but I think we have the same sort of condition statements they have.
So, counselor, what's your why do you think you should go in?
I don't know, just because like we figured like one number's going in and like one thing's coming out, and I didn't want to it took us a long time main working. It's like we got it working. Let's get that.
Yeah, I imagine aside from validating the input, there'd be only one other method that gets called. So putting everything main makes sense if we never plan to add anything to this.
Or reuse it.
Or reuse it.
So what would your one method be? Like what code would you extract from that method?
I think that whole else statement, and then it would just be called leap year. Probably.
Yeah, pass a year in and get it like bool out or something. Yeah.
So yeah, about like the first.
Yeah.
Nice. I really like how these three pairs took different approaches. Like there's nuance and stuff. So even something as simple as this, can have different approaches. And since they wrote tests, everything works. So there's really no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just how they approached it. Very nice. Any questions for them? Okay. Clap it down. Cool. Okay. Let's see here. Brian, did you want to go? Who's Brian? Okay, yeah. So let's see here. Can you unmute? It's me. Oh. Cool. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, yet another thing. Do you write a lot of C code? No, okay. And the reason I say that is that like idiomatic C has all the variable declarations up at the top. That's an interesting way to approach it. Nice. Compare and contrast. How does this? How's it similar to the other code that we've seen, and how is it different from the other code that we've seen? Yeah. Yeah, with the return. What do you think? Does that appeal to people? Is that easy? Yeah. Yeah.
That's one disagreement we have. That's kind of like often I would refactoring kind of documents like one statement just having two return, like one return true, one return false. But we kind of have a bit of readability and
I think you mean elegance. Yeah, right. Oh, look, I can. Yeah. Excellent. Cool. Anything else for this pair? Well, thank you very much for sharing. Excellent. So I'm gonna. Does anybody else want to share? No. Okay. Well, thank you. You know, I appreciate the confidence that you all showed in showing off your code. It's not necessarily easy or familiar to do that. So let's talk about your experiences first with TDD. So did you actually do TDD? We saw that a lot of people had tests. What was it like doing test-driven development first?
It was hard because we already knew like a bell statement array. It was tempting to skip a step.
Yeah.
At some points.
Were you able to hold yourself to it, or was it just like, I know what I'm doing? Okay, good. Ah. Yep. Right, the driver and the navigator. Yes.
I thought it was interesting because the TDD made me think about returning a Boolean, whereas maybe if I had just started with the code rather than with the test, I might have not have done that. So we call a method that returns a Boolean to the test.
Why do you think that was?
It seemed like an easier way to. Well, the reason was because we had a list of years, and we wanted to check them iteratively, and then just return if all of them were leap years. And so I just chose a Boolean because it seemed like easier than a string that said yes or no.
Okay.
But I don't know. It was just an interesting thing. I probably wouldn't have used a Boolean otherwise.
Cool. Yeah. So like the test-driven approach changes the code that you would write first. That's a good observation.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think we did because we did it in main, so then we were copying the test, the IT test from previously, and those were written to standard error. So then that might have affected. We're like, oh, we'll just write the standard out, and that probably influenced that we wrote a string to standard out versus a Boolean.
Oh, interesting. So since you started with the integration tests first and started implementing those, then yeah, so your implementation was again influenced by the tests. You're doing integration tests, and so then it was you're paying more attention to what was written to standard output and what came out of the command line. Okay, that's cool. Nice. Yeah.
I find I'm in the habit of just it's like I'll start coding and then I'll be like, oh wait, like I'm supposed to be doing this like TDD, and I'll just like start over and just like okay, go back and like comment everything out, make the test.
Both of us are like that, and so I'm pretty sure that like we wrote about 8 tests and ended up deleting them. Like it ate up a lot of time.
Yeah.
We started and then restarted. It was like, oh yeah, no
over
way.
and over and over again.
Well, it's kind of part of it, right? It's a super easy thing to implement. I mean, the acceptance criteria gave you the implementation, right? And even as we were talking about test cases, you were talking about the code that you would write. You know, iMod 4. It's like no, it's like. But okay, that's good because this exercise is mainly about just experiencing the discipline of TDD. Okay. Any other TDD observations? What about your observations pairing? So we heard about some spats. Who found it a pleasant experience? So people who haven't spoken yet. What was pleasant about it? Your partner did all the coding for you?
I mean, like, one thing that I kind of liked is that I think that naturally we would have done it very differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we got like Or at least, I don't know. I feel like it ended up being something that I wouldn't have written on my own, which was kind of cool.
Interesting.
Because,
Yeah.
breaking out of your coding shell, I guess.
It's a very diplomatic way of saying I was doing it wrong.
Over here, there was an observation.
I mean,
Things
that
went
was
well.
you actually made me.
we had a little problem with Java as a keyword. So we were both looking at the answer and we got the resolution a little quicker.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. Since there were two people looking at the problem. Awesome. People over here, observations about pairing. No. Good, bad, indifferent. We'll be doing it again next week. Oh, we might do mobbing next week. I don't know. Right? Oh, this room isn't. I don't know. I don't know if we can get how many people can get around a laptop screen. There's that one room in the fab that has like the projectors around the perimeter of the room. That's ideal, and I was in that room a couple of years ago, but we got big. We can't fit 60 people in there. Even though it's a huge room, it doesn't fit 60 people. It's crazy.
Well, only 30 people show up.
I know, right? Yeah. I wish I could. Anyway. Okay. Any other observations or things about our time together today? No? Yes?
I guess one suggestion, like, the script that you had was nice, but it'd be, I think a lot of frustration with people was getting that like project set up and like I know for me, I was trying to like do stuff while he was working and renaming stuff, and maybe like having the script actually set up the,
Rename all of the files and stuff like that.
Felt
Say what?
Felt rushed. It would have been nice to like. It's like I wanted to do it for longer because like once we started like.
Oh, do the kata?
Yeah.
For longer?
It was,
Okay.
It felt like there was a time limit. So
Okay.
It was kind of like.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if like the room was sort of settling down or people going for different things. So good. Okay, we'll spend a little bit. The one next week will be a little bit more complex, and so I'll be sure to give you more time for that.
One thing that's kind of annoying me about doing more TDD is that like there are certain things that I just don't really know how to test, and so I feel like it's limiting the way that I code.
Oh, interesting. Say more.
Like, for instance, I don't really know how to test a function that just exits the program. What do you do there?
Oh, that's why the integration test framework has that when you get the main method result, it has the get exit code.
Oh,
So you're right. So something like that ought to be tested with an integration test as opposed to, a unit test. If you call some.exit, the VM goes away, right?
That's kind of like what Charlie was saying though too, is that he actually changed the way he would have normally returned things from his code so that it was more testable.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah. Right. And so testability is an important aspect of the code. Yeah.
What do you think is a good way to familiarize yourself with like the different tests for both integration and just the tests? Because knowing what you can test is like a big part of what drives the tests that I've been doing.
Yep.
Like touching on what you were just talking about.
Well, I hope that as you get more into the course, you'll get more of an intuitive sense for like when you need to write an integration test and when you need to write a unit test. I think one of the challenges with this kata project one is that they're really quite simple. The implementation is comparatively simple, and this is on purpose. I don't want to make I don't want the sort of the business logic or the domain of the assignments to be so complex that you're sort of hung up on things. But on the other hand, you don't really get much of an opportunity to build like a big class hierarchy or have lots of, really get to experience lots of object-oriented design in the first one. I think I'll be interested to see what your experiences are like with projects 2 and 3. As you add some more things, as you get some more experience with the file I/O or the I/O libraries, you just see more object patterns and things like that. And then I expect that project 4 then will be a shift where now when you're doing the REST API, there'll still be some amount of logic that you can unit test, and we'll look at how you can unit test a servlet, so something that normally runs inside a web container. You can write unit tests with that using mock objects. So I guess, for me, the answer, sort of boils down to like, well, you got to do it, and you got to learn these things, right? You sort of have to build up that sense, that intuition of, okay, I'm approaching a problem. oh boy, the specification is really talking about the outside. How do I sort of zoom in, zoom out again to make sure that I'm that my stuff in the middle of my application, the deeply nested business logic, which is all just Java, code. There's no interaction with the user. How do I make sure that all of that is then consistent with the user experience that needs to be presented? And that's more or less validated in the integration tests. And then in Project 5, when we start developing an Android application, that'll sort of just be like that's like another step of yes, you've got all your logic, but boy, it runs inside all this other stuff. And there's all these things to interact with. There is the user interface to interact with. There is a system to interact with. And so then what do you test and how do you test it, especially when testing requires, starting emulators and all sorts of other things like that. It's not just as easy as just saying, hey, run a main method. So.
But more than just knowing when to use, like what kind of test, is there a recommended way to survey the different tests?
Oh, you can. You can read up on test-driven development. You can read up on behavior-driven development, which is another way of. That's probably a little closer to integration-y type things, because there you're really specifying your tests in terms of things that are closer to the user. So conceptually, behavior-driven development talks really about the what the user experience is and trying to capture that inside an automated test. So I think that'd be a good place to explore beyond this. And then there are different frameworks and stuff, and you can see how different frameworks express and optimize for different kinds of tests. Yeah. Good question. Wish I had a better answer. No, it's okay. Yeah. C+. Yep. Awesome. Okay, great. Any other observations or questions? Thoughts? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yep. Peter. Yeah.
I want to ask, what would be recommended for a length of a method or function? Like I noticed for the 100% of their code, it was like super long.
You mean like number of lines in a method? Well, there's lots that's been written about it. Some people say, well, it should fit on a page, and then people rotate their screens in portrait style, and you can have hundreds of lines. That's not the intent.
Well, and also the name of the function, like if it's too long.
Well, so the name of the function. So I think what's most important is that the name of the function convey what the function does, and that the function does really, as little as possible in a way that's expressive. So, for instance, in one of the pieces of code that we saw, like where you had all the if statements, and it's like, if I, divisible by 100. One way to refactor that, and I think something that would be reasonable to do, is to refactor that expression I divisible by 100 into its own method itself. And so then the upward method actually reads like you would read it in English. So if if year is divisible by 100, then this. If year is divisible by 400, do this, etc., etc. Sorry, I got the other way around. There's I tend to always err on the side of readability. Because someone's going to look at my code. That someone's probably going to be me, and I want to make sure that I remember. It's easy for me to approach it and easy for me to evolve it. Because I can think of lots of times where I've gone back to my code. It's like, what idiot wrote this? Get blame. Me in 2008. Oh, oops. Right, just stuff like that. And so then so then don't worry about the length of your method name, especially for private methods. Not anyone's going to see them, right? They're private, right? And I think that's one of the other things they say. It's like the more the more visible your method, you probably want something more concise because you want to hide all the details of the implementation, but you just want to expose, hey, here's the behavior. This is like why you'd want to call this, and that should be a straightforward thing.
Oh yeah, and I imagine if you're also in Docamp multiple times, you should probably shorten it so you don't have to write all that.
A tab complete. It's the year 2019. Don't worry about that, right? Yeah, right. So right. So don't don't try to. We're not fitting things on punch cards anymore, right? There's no reason to be brief. There was. I mean, 50 years, like when my dad was doing it, was writing COBOL, yes, and you had to fit it on a punch card. You literally couldn't go more than 70 columns. That's not the case anymore, right? And so here again, it's about being readable. The same thing where, people that sort of came up, writing systems programming, would say, oh, you don't want to have all those method calls because, you have to pop new stuff on the stack and that's super inefficient, super slow. No, not anymore, right? Because you have the virtual machine that can do all those optimizations. So, the code is for the humans, it's not for the machines. There are compilers that turn it into the machine stuff. So, making for, yeah.
Wait, so when you said it'll optimize for the method calls,
Yeah.
so you were saying you would, I guess I was curious, like, would you really do, like, your mod 100 equals true? Like, you would extract that out?
I might. It might make it way more readable.
Okay. Because I was also wondering, like, well, like, as people who are familiar with, like, the mod operation, like, is it kind of like, well, we kind of know, like...
Yeah.
But will it optimize to the point where, like, will it not make that a function call?
It'll inline it. Yeah, the Java virtual machine forever has been smart enough to say, oh, look, you're calling a private method, I can inline that method. So the machine code, well, yeah, certainly, like, the just-in-time compiler will look at the bytecode, will analyze it, will generate optimized, machine code that inlines that method. Right? There's no reason to make a method, a function call, pop a new frame on the stack for something like that. It'll inline it all. Yeah.
I get worried about like doing that true or false, where it's like where you lose readability in the sense that you end up with like code that's like, you're just scrolling and you're going past method after method that they're all doing very simple things, and it's like if you're just like, I guess with IntelliJ you can just go to declaration, so it doesn't matter, but like the document itself gets cluttered if you're like writing all these sort of like small methods for doing like every little task that you have to do.
Well, yes, of course there's a line, right? For every, you don't want to have, I plus 2 and then refactor that to an increment plus 2. Well, right? Unless it's fit to purpose, which it might be. Okay. So the smaller methods the better. Go for clarity. Uncle Bob talks a lot about this and like the clean code and everything. So, there are resources that you can leverage. Yeah. Okay.
You were talking about the Java compiler optimizing out private methods.
Yeah.
So
Let me talk about this.
if I'm unit testing and using reflection to test my private methods,
Uh-huh.
does it still auto-optimize those whenever I build my project, or does it look at that and say, how does it deal with, does it compartmentalize the unit tests away so that the reflection won't do it in such a way that it will
So, okay, so okay. You'll be sorry you asked. So, and the reason I get so excited about this is that this is like when I wrote my master's thesis on, like, 20 years ago. Oh my God. So the Java virtual machine, right? So Java source code is compiled into these class files. These class files are machine independent because they run on top of the Java virtual machine. So the Java virtual machine is this big runtime environment that takes the class file and then executes it. And over the years, Java Virtual Machine has evolved quite a bit to be incredibly smart about how it translates, well, actually not only how it translates, but also the machine code that it generates. And so then a lot of the optimizations they've done over the years is to take something like reflection, which naively implemented does a lot of work to sort of keep track of, oh, go find this method over here and invoke it and everything like that. But over the years, they've added a lot of smarts to the VM that basically say, hey, listen, I keep track of how many times I've done this reflective call, and oh my gosh, I'm doing this all the time. It's probably a good candidate for optimizing. So it does some work to figure out how to resolve the method call and how to inline everything. And then, so instead of having to like do a bunch of work every time you call it, it just inlines it all. And then it has that same sort of pattern all over the place. Now, in terms of your unit tests, unit tests are probably, are only run once. And so then it's probably not worth the JVM's time to do that optimization. But if you're running in something like it's something that's doing a lot of reflection, like a web framework or something like that, then yeah, the JVM knows to optimize all of that, and that makes your overall application run faster. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering if, because I would imagine reflection, it would see the reflections happening and it would pull back some of the optimization it's doing so that it's not, so that it can still get into that section of code without having to.
Oh, well, it's not like it replaces. Okay, so I see what you're saying, right? It's like, oh, but wait, I inline that method over here. Then do I need to outline it to undo that? Actually, the way it works is that it inlines it in like its own piece of code, right? So it's not like it needs to go extract it or anything and just make another copy of it, basically. Yeah, it does it that way. Oh, JVM's so cool. Runtimes are awesome. Someone else had a question down here, or did you have one?
I was going to wonder if you want to take a break.
Oh, actually, no, what I wanted to do is go through the assignment and go home. Okay? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Because we've been here so late. I mean, holy mackerel.
Are we done with leap year?
I think so, for another 4 years anyway. Right? Had enough? Enough dividing by 4 and by 100 and stuff? There'll be a different kind next week. Okay. Okay, project 3. So in project 1, you did the basic application classes. In project 2, you did some file I/O. Now we're dealing with text formatting. So you'll be pretty printing your appointment book. So here we're going to leverage Java's facilities for sorting data and for working with dates. So there's some changes that you're going to make to your appointment book application. Now you get to use Java util dates. Some of you might have been using it already. Great, now you have to use it. So now I want you to override the getBeginTime and getEndTime methods from abstract appointment and have them and store the begin time and the end time as Java util dates. And by the way, even though it's called time, it consists of both a day of the year, a day and a time. You should modify your getBeginTime string, getEndTime string methods to format the dates, the Java util dates, using dateFormat.short. So you can go read about date format. It's got a field called short, which provides an object that formats a date. Now, appointments inside your appointment book should now be sorted. And they're sorted chronologically, first by their beginning time. And then if you have 2 appointments that begin at the same time, they should be sorted chronologically by their ending time. If you have 2 appointments that start and end at the same time, then you should sort them lexicographically in alphabetical order by their descriptions. And Java has facilities for doing all of this sorting, and part of the assignment is to go research those facilities and figure out how to do it. And to make things even easier, we should have, to make things even easier, I want the appointment class to implement the comparable interface. So this is all stuff that you can read about in the lecture, figure out what all these interfaces are all about. And of course, if you have questions, please ask about them on Slack. So in project 2, you implemented an appointment book dumper that dumped to a text file. I want you to, in project 3, to add a new appointment book dumper called Pretty Printer, which instead of writing the appointment book to a text format that can be understood by a parser, I want you to format an appointment book in a format that looks nice to a person. So this is a nicely formatted textual presentation of your appointment book. I recommend that you use date format to make the dates look nice. If you want to experiment with some of the newer date APIs, you can do that too. And your Pretty Printer should include the duration of each appointment in minutes. So a new requirement there. All of this is driven by a Project 3 main class, which is exactly the same as Project 2. Actually, wait, is that true? It's not exactly the same as Project 2. It has a new option, -pretty. And note that if the file, so it can either pretty print to a file, or if the name of the file is dash, it should print to standard out. And of course, and maybe it goes without saying, but I should probably emphasize it, that the format of the pretty printer should be different from the format of your text file, because again, a different user is consuming it. The appointment book should be printed after the new appointment has been added. So the logic is, we're going to read it in from the text file, add the new appointment, and then print it out if the command line options are provided. Note that there's a change in requirements. The date and time format is no longer 24-hour time. Now we should have 12-hour time, and it should look something like this. Error handling, pretty much all the same stuff from last time. Oh, we do have a new requirement. It's an error now if the appointment's end time is before its start time. Starts time. So yeah, some of you have been asking about that. Well, here's your chance. So now it matters. You could have done it in projects 1 and 2, but now you have to do it for project 3. And here again, all this reinforces it reinforces the stuff in the end of the collections, or sorry, the util lecture about working with date, comparing items in collections, all of that good stuff. It's due in 2 weeks. Questions about that? Yes.
For the dates, like should it be padded with a 0, like for a format, like say January is represented as 01 instead of just
Dates on the command line or dates in the pretty printer?
So then if a user entered like say 1/02/2019, that's considered invalid?
I have to go look at the tests. Ask that in Slack. Actually, let me create a new Slack channel for it.
Or should it just say try to parse it as like as if it had like a 0 pattern into it for that one?
I don't remember what I test with. Like in project 1, it was okay to have a month that is just 1 digit. Ask me on Slack, and I'll go look at the testing script. I think it's okay. I can't remember what I test with. If I only test with 2 digits, I'll tell you.
Oh yeah, because when I tried to do the whole end time, check if end time is earlier than the end time.
Yep.
Apparently, something went wrong with trying comparing the values when someone entered a single digit.
Oh, interesting.
I guess it just treated it as like the lowest possible value.
Interesting. Well, you'll have to fix that for project 3.
Ah, okay. So we assume that the user will enter like a single digit.
Again, ask it on Slack, and I'll give you a definitive answer. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
Sounds good. Other questions about project 3?
Is there a specific date class you want us to use? I know there's a couple out there.
Well, so the abstract appointment has Java util date, so you got to use it there. If internally, if you want to use like the local date time or the date time, the JOTA time stuff, or whatever it's called, yeah, you can use it internally. I don't know if that helps though. So actually, in my experience, is that there were some things that were confusing about that stuff. So in some cases, it worked a lot better for me, and other times, like, wow, this is really different. I got lost about time zones and nonsense like that. So
The simple date format also really easily works with date objects.
yeah, so here again, I recommend simple date format, and it's old school. It's fine for this assignment. You know, I have 19 years of people doing it, of using it, but yeah.
Because I spent like 2 hours trying to get it working last night, and I switched to another one because the other one worked better.
Okay, oh, good deal. Let me share that with everybody else and say, yeah, hey, cool.
Well, simple date format's the one I couldn't get working. So.
Oh,
It's weird. It does weird stuff. If you're not careful, it does weird stuff.
okay.
Yeah, it's like the capitalization of the letters matters.
Ah.
Yeah, I know it matters with the other one too. I just.
Well, and let us know what you think. The JOTA time stuff is still pretty new, and so maybe it's just, I haven't figured out how to use it yet. So I can learn from you. I believe the children of the future. Okay. Anything else? Nope. Oh yeah.
So you posted a couple like before class functional programming videos.
Yeah.
Are we gonna be doing any functional stuff?
Not. I don't. I include the Java 8 stuff because I think it's important for you to know. I'm trying to think. Off the top of my head, it's not something I've like built into the assignment.
I just curious because I thought it was gonna be like related. More of the learning.
I encourage you to maybe. Well, let's see here. I can't think of off the top of my head how exactly you would use that for. Use the really interesting stuff from the Stream API in the project. Sort of like not enough data. We're not doing things like MapReduce and all that kind of stuff. So maybe not. I don't know. We might actually in the Android. No, in the Android stuff, we might be able to use like Lambda expressions, but it's not the same thing as using the Stream API. Okay.
Just say it might appear on the test.
Sorry, what?
Just say it might appear on the test.
Oh, yeah, there you go. It's not gonna work. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Yeah.
Functional, I do two, right?
same text file, right? Because there's only one argument for the text file, so it's the same one for reading and writing. Okay, thanks everybody. We'll see you again next time.